Hey, it's Brock here from Rock Hill Farms, and we're about to stand up the last arch on the Quonset hut. And I've done so many videos showing how we stand up arches, every problem and solution we've had along the way, that this video is going to be about kind of a summary of the entire project. Would I recommend it to someone, or if I needed another building, would I do this again? And I wrote a big check yesterday, and I've got another major announcement. So I'm gonna go over all that after we get this arch done. So we finished the last two arches today, and the main structure is done. Now the Quonset hut is by no means done. I still have to do end walls. I have to build my own doors. I'm going to hang some kind of tracks for lighting. I'm going to build shelving in here. There's a lot of work left to be done, but finishing the biggest part of it and having the structure in place has kind of had me reflecting on, would I build one of these buildings again? And that's a tough question to answer, because all of the things that made me choose this type of building are still true. So with everything I've got going on, for those that don't know, I have a manufacturing business 100 foot from here. And it's a 30 by 50 building, heated and air conditioned, and we build our product in there. But it also is where we store our surplus materials, and it's when we get materials in, you don't have room to walk around. So we needed another storage area and kind of an overflow for my other equipment that I use. And I started off, I wanted a pole barn. That seems like the obvious answer, right? Well, I was trying to get estimates and thinking a pole barn would probably cost me $40,000 to $50,000. And there's no way I could spend that. Not with everything else I'm trying to do. And so I go to a trade show, and this building was originally going to be $11,000. It was going to be 30 by 40 for $11,000. And I ended up agreeing to that price, then deciding I wanted it to be longer. So it's now 30 by 60. That brought it up to 13 or 14,000, somewhere in that range. And it was a 9-month wait from ordering it to receiving the building. And that's the way everything is right now. So during that time, I thought I knew what I'd bought, but I started looking at the paperwork and realized that we talked about the end walls, but I did not order it with end walls. And I wanted end walls because right now you just can't store anything in here. You're gonna get, rain at least halfway in. There's no way to lock it up if you have valuable equipment in here. And so I knew I wanted the end walls. I called them, and I got a price for the end walls, and I got a price for the doors. I ended up buying the end walls, but not the doors. And that brought the total cost for the building up to $17,000. And that's still pretty reasonable. But as you guys know, there's a lot of other costs that go into a building. So this was on a hillside. From one side to the other was about a 5-foot elevation difference, possibly as much as 6 foot, including the surrounding area that we leveled out. And so I had waiting on the building, I called 2 excavation companies, and I asked for a price for them to level this pad and prep it for me to put the building in. And I was looking between $4,000 and $8,000. They gave me different options, and it was 2 companies, so I had several choices, but they were going to range between $4,000 and $8,000 for site prep. I didn't want to spend that, so I found a way to do it for less than $1,000. I rented a mini excavator. I got an experienced operator, and we got it done. And he ran the mini excavator, I ran the tractor. And I was also able to use that rental to do some more work down on the pond. But the next thing was, once we had the pad flattened out, is a conversation I probably should have put earlier in the story, that whenever I went to buy this building, my concern that I told the salesman is I'm going to want to put things near the wall. And on a domed building, this, where the curve is, you can't approach that wall. And as a salesman doing his job, he answered my concern in kind of a dismissive way, I guess. He said, all you've got to do is set it on a 2-foot concrete wall. He said, you can buy these giant blocks, make a wall out of them, and set your building there. You'll be good. And that worked. So 1 foot from the wall, it's 10 foot before you hit that metal ceiling. So I can put some pretty tall pallet racking on each side and still use this entire footprint. But, you know, saying it in a dismissive way, just get some big blocks, set there, set your building on it. It was a lot more difficult than that, because, you know, how do you handle those blocks? Where do you get them? How do you get them perfectly level? And we went through a long process, and all this is on videos, where we set the blocks in with the skid steer. I didn't have any way to set those blocks in, and my initial thing, I talked to the operator who was helping me build this pad. He said the way you want to get that wall is not with those blocks. You want to hire a concrete company to put that block wall in place, and we'll dig a footing, and then this company will build forms and pour concrete. I said, hey, you're more experienced than I am, let's do that. So we dug footings. Well, problem is I went and got an estimate to have that concrete wall done, and that was going to be $8,000. I mean, just if professionally having the site prepped and those walls built, you're looking at another $15,000, 12, 14, somewhere in that range, depending on how I had the excavation done. That's as much as the building. So I'm not doing that. So we ended up filling those footings back in and packing it all in and buying the block. And I rented a machine at a good rate from a friend, and we got these all set in place. And I ended up having to build a concrete cap on top of them. And we ended up with a level surface, and instead of $8,000 to a concrete company, I spent around $1,500 to have these walls in place. And in some ways, an actual foundation would be better, but I'm actually really happy with these block walls, because each block is 4,000 pounds, and there are 20 blocks. So my building is bolted down to an 80,000 pound block wall. It's a lot wider than I would have got for that price. Now, it doesn't go into the ground, but it's a lot wider, and I'm going to build up around each side of these blocks and have them dirt covered up so high. So that got us a place to build the building. Then, 9 months goes by and they deliver the building, and it was not as easy to build as I would have thought. And you can watch the entire process. The first day I had 5 people out here to help me, and we didn't know what we were doing, and we failed to get an arch up. We got it halfway, and these arches are like a spaghetti noodle. They bend and twist, and it fell and bent it. It damaged one panel a little bit. And the next day, we had a whole crew here, and we got, I believe, 2 arches up that second day, with a whole group of people spending all day on it. And then throughout the way, we learned and we improved and we got the hang of it. And with a crew of 6 people, we did 6 arches, and we really didn't work a full day. So really, we could have done 8 to 10 arches a day with a crew. The problem is, I don't know about you, but for me, it's difficult to get a crew of people to show up here and work. It's one thing, there are some friends who might volunteer, and maybe sometimes you can get some volunteer help, But for the scope of this project, that was never a possibility. So I paid people to help me build this every time, and it was still difficult to get people to come out. People have full-time jobs and don't necessarily want to work on a Quonset hut on the weekend. So I experimented a couple times with trying to do arches by myself and do arches with just one person. Both of those are possible, but they come with a lot of struggle. And so what I would say on that front is just do your research, and the best approach to this is to rent a scissor lift and have 4 people here to help you all the time and try to do the whole thing in like 3 days. Didn't work out that way for me. I averaged about 2 hours of working time per arch, 29 arches, 58 hours, times usually having 3 or 4 people here. You're talking 200 man hours to build this. So, you know, and I'm not a professional. I got an offer from a professional Quonset hut installer, said he could come build this in 2 days. And it would have been $10,000. I think that's fair. For the fact he's transporting scissor lifts, he's paying a crew, probably, you know, he has to pay taxes and all those things on their behalf and all the expenses and the insurance. Probably completely fair to pay someone $10,000 to build this. But you start adding it up, looking at an $11,000 building, then it goes to 17. If I'd gotten the doors, it would have been 22,000 because the doors are another $5,000 for both sides. So 22,000, then site prep, let's say 6,000, you're at 28. And then the concrete is 36. If I'd done a concrete floor in this whole thing, we'd be at 40,000. And if I had a crew build it, you're at $50,000, which is what it would have been probably for the pole barn. And the pole barn wouldn't have the limitation of the curved sides. So if you're wanting to do like I did and jump on the struggle bus and spend all your energy on getting this thing put up yourself, I think I did this for less than half price of a pole barn. And there are some completely metal fab building kits you can get in that range of what I paid, the $22,000. But this building, on the positives to it, I think this building might be more durable than a pole barn and hold up to storms better. This arch dome shape has a higher wind rating than any pole barn. So that's definitely a positive for it. So would I do it again? I think I would. I think I would build this again. And the reason is, unless there's a better deal that I don't know about, I don't know how to account for that other $25,000 that it would have cost me to do it the other way. And maybe I could have financed the whole thing on some good terms and drew it out, but I've got enough payments, and so I paid cash for this building. And it was really, it's one of those things where I ordered it and it took 9 months to get here. Well, what happens in 9 months is completely unpredictable. The day I ordered it, I felt comfortable paying for it. But the day it arrived, it didn't feel very comfortable to pay for this building. And it came down to, what can I do to be smart and creative and save money on the rest of this progress? Because the businesses I run, all of them, have a seasonality to them. And winter is our slow time, and this arrived in winter. And it made for some tough choices. Now that all leads me to my second part of this story, and that is the big announcement. Now this is something I've been hinting at and talking about for 6 months. It's something I'm excited about, it's been on my mind, but my skid steer is finally here. Now the skid steer is a similar kind of story. I decided a year ago I wanted a skid steer and really set my mind to it, but I also don't feel like I can afford it. And that's just the reality of it. You know, sometimes on social media, you put out everything as sunshine and roses, It's not. I'm not a wealthy person. I don't have a guaranteed income. I may not get paid anything tomorrow if I don't sell a product or find a job to do. Tomorrow, I'm doing a job for someone, small job. I'm gonna remove a small section of fence, cut down a few little trees, and haul everything off and make a couple $100. And that will pay my wages for tomorrow. So I'm blessed in life. I feel really blessed that I was able to start a business that allows me to do what I do on YouTube. But that doesn't mean that as something I just want for myself or that I want for the YouTube channel, I can afford to buy a skid steer. For me to buy a skid steer, it has to pay for itself. And it has to pay for itself by doing work for other people. And I think it's easy, not easy, no business is easy, but it's reasonable for a skid steer to pay for itself by doing work for people. The problem in that scenario is that I'm not an experienced operator. If I'd spent the last 10 years working for an excavating company and as part of my regular job I ran a skid loader, I would feel so confident right now in the ability for that machine to not only pay for itself, but to also pay for my time and make some profit. But that's not where I'm at. So I'm taking what feels to me, honestly, it's frightening to spend that kind of money on it. I've just spent a tremendous amount of money on a truck and now the skid steer. And once again, I'm not complaining. Like, I'm blessed in life. I'm grateful for the opportunities I have. But it's a frightening thing to invest such a large amount of money hoping that you can make a business out of it. Yeah, I've done it before. And, you know, when this business started rolling, I was working in that business. And then I was working in it every day building product. And I asked myself, can I hire someone to do what I do and go out and find some other way to make that money or more money than what I'm paying someone to build my product? And I believe that I could, so I started doing it. And I've done a lot of different things. I've done lawn care, then I went into tractor work. I get a little bit of money from these YouTube videos, and I've taken actual jobs since that business has been going to say, what other streams of revenue can I create so that if my main business stops selling, that I have something to fall back on. And I've made this decision that I'm going to try to earn money with the skid steer. And I'm going to continue to try to earn money with the tractor. You'll still see me all the time on the channel running that tractor. The skid steer doesn't replace it. It's another line for another set of jobs. So this feels like the tell-all story that nobody asked for. But if I'm going to be on here every single day making videos and sharing my life, I'm going to tell you the good and the bad. And the bad right now is I'm very excited to have that machine, but I'm also scared about spending that much on it. Now, as far as the machine, it's going to be here in 3 days. It's at the dealership. I've went and started it and drove it around a little bit on the parking lot. They're going to deliver it in 3 days, and I'll have full coverage of what machine I picked and all the attachments I got with it. If any of you guys want to try to guess what machine I bought, the make and model, then just as something fun to do, the first person who guesses the machine I bought, I'll send you some merch. I've got some coffee cups and some shirts and just different things off my merch store that I've had in the house for a while. And I'll send some of that out to the first person who guesses what kind of machine I bought, if anyone's even watching the video this far in. But once I made the decision, I'm going to buy that skid steer. It can do so many things in my other business and here, and it's going to live in this Quonset hut. But once I made the decision that I was going to buy that machine, it came down to, what do I need with it to make money? Because you look at a skid steer, you might be $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 depending on what kind of skid steer you get. And that's just with a bucket. I mean, you can do a few things with a bucket, but you're not going to run a business with just the bucket. Actually, I'm sure there are people who do. But I started thinking, what attachments can I make money with? Because if I'm spending $70,000, I might as well get what I need to really make money. And I have ordered it with, counting the bucket, I've got 6 different things I can put on the front of it. 5 of those are setting at the dealership to be delivered on Wednesday, and 1 of those items won't be here for about 30 days. But it's gonna give me a lot of fun things that I can play around with and gain some experience. But I don't know, I feel like I've rambled a long time, but I just wanted to kind of give a big update because this is a life-changing thing for me to get this piece of equipment and try to start into a new line of work. So I appreciate you guys for taking time to watch this video. I'll put links on the screen to a couple more of our videos, and I'll see you next time.